Welcome to Education in Focus. I'm your host, Eliana Kernodle. A new report from Reason Foundation ranks every state's open enrollment laws, which allow students to transfer from their assigned public school to other public schools with open seats. Joining me to discuss this is Chalkboard news editor Brennan Clary. Brennan, what's the idea behind this report?
Yeah, so the report basically looks at, as you mentioned, these open enrollment laws and, without basically allowing students to go to a different school than the one that's within the boundaries of what's called a residentially assigned school district. So where you live, you have a school district. And if you want to be able to go to a different school district than the one in which you live, that would be open enrollment. It's a kind of a different way of school choice than a lot of people, have. It is a form of school choice, right? It's not like a ESA or a voucher program, but it's allowing students to go to another public school district, another school than the one in which they're assigned. And so there's different iterations of that. But that's basically what that looks at. And this report specifically stacks up states against each other and tries to find out what states have in terms of policy to promote or dissuade parents and families and students from choosing a school district that best fits their needs.
So then how did different states stack up?
So yeah, essentially I found that Arizona, Idaho, Oklahoma, Utah, and West Virginia had the best laws for helping students transfer to a different school. So, provided students and families the ability to go to the school that they wanted instead of the one that they were assigned. And then there was some states that earned a B grade. So that was a helpful thing, I think, in the report is to assign a letter grade. So Colorado, Delaware, Florida, Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, and Wisconsin earned B grades in the report. And Arkansas, Montana, North Dakota, those states earned C grades. And then only two states, California and Iowa, earned D grades. And then 33 states received an F. And with that, there's a little bit of nuance. I think, if, you have a 60%, I think most people are aware, if you have a 60%, that can be an F. But if you have a 0, that's also an F. So there's sort of like a wide range of, states that would receive that category from the Reason Foundation. So like, for example, Washington or Georgia, they just missed that according to the source, Jude Schwalbach, that our reporter Austin Gergens talked to. So that is, in a nutshell, like there's a lot of different kinds of policies. There's a lot of different kinds of placements across the board, with some of those states being in very, we're here to help students move and transfer. And then other states are, they don't have anything, or they're pretty rigid about, like, if a student is assigned this district, this is where they have to go.
And so what are some of the specific policy differences that this report highlights?
Right. So one of the biggest things that it highlights is cross-district transfer tuition, right? So there's some school districts will say, well, if you're going to come here, from the school district that you were assigned and you're going to come here, you have to pay us the difference, or you have to pay us that tuition. And these are public schools, right? So then the idea there is, if you live in one county in this, and then you're trying to go just over the border to a different school district, and maybe that one has, more income, more taxable income, they would say you need to pay the difference from what you would be paying, like what the per pupil cost of education is in that school district that you're transferring from. So there's 23 states that don't stop school districts from charging tuition to cross-district transfers. And only 8 of those fully met the Reason Foundation's metrics for strong district-level transparency, and only 3 states have robust state-level transparency provisions codified, Jude Schwalbach said. So it's interesting. There are these different kinds of policies that when you start getting into the specifics of what does it mean to transfer, there are some of these kinds of issues like, transparency or basically and some of that would be publishing openness data. So one of the big things is, one of the big pushes for the transfer is that this doesn't push kids out if that is their assigned district, it's if there's seats open. So I think that's one of the key things to bring up and make sure that we're clear about is that the open enrollment would be, you have 100 students in the class and then there's 12 open spots for these different classes, right? So we should allow other school districts to apply and, through some process that again would be, transparent and open, have that be like a lottery system or whatever. Then students from other school districts nearby can apply and get into those seats because that might benefit their needs, or maybe that'd be a higher quality education. So again, it is a form of school choice, but it's not, one that is typically, maybe discussed along with like, education savings accounts and that kind of thing. And these are all public school districts, right? But it's just that, can I move around a little bit and have some of that flexibility? One thing that I wanted to point out with that tuition thing is not insignificant amount of money for these that can be charged by a school district. For example, Schwalbach brought up two examples. One of them, Falls Church City Public Schools in Virginia and Fairview Park City Public Schools in Ohio. They set cross-district tuition rates at approximately $24,000 per student. So if you were wanting to go to those specific schools or that specific high school, Meridian High School in Falls Church City Public Schools, you would be on the hook for that every year. And so that's something, if a parent is in a nearby district or in a different high school and they want to send their kids to that one and they know that there's some open seats somehow, maybe then they're thinking like, well, okay, I could do this, but I'd have to have the money. And this is a public school. So that's kind of the question is, if there's that spot open, then who should be able to apply? And, there are 14 states, including Florida, that have laws on the books that require districts to accept transfers from other districts as long as there are seats available. And so that essentially making public schools free to all students, no matter where they live. And that's something that Schwalbach pointed out with the 14 states there. And there's ways to do that specifically too, with, for example, Wisconsin's funding mechanism that allows $8,600 of state funds to follow students. There's ways that you can kind of build that in, I think, and there's ways that you can kind of come up with ways to allow students to transfer these school districts or like create policies that promote that through following what has worked for other states. And you can kind of see that all laid out in the Reason Foundation's report. It's very interesting.
Well, Brendan, thank you for your insights on this story. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at chalkboardnews.com.